I know that this summer I've been busy a lot lately with various youth groups and helping them out. But anyway, with the group that I worked with not too long ago, I cut out a bunch of pieces to make some front pocket wallet patterns or projects for a church youth group that was going to use them for Father's Day presents. So I made up a little sample of it. I got the pieces out, so on, but I figured since I've got a pattern, I might as well make a couple more of these and might as well digitize the pattern so I can find it later when I need it. But anyway, it's pretty much just a simple little, it's got a divider and a pocket on the front, so you've got two places for the cards, the back's identical, and then it's got a center pocket that you can put folded money. So it's a very simple little front pocket style wallet. And the pieces I cut out for the youth group, I went ahead and punched all the holes on them. But when I'm just making them myself, I'm not going to do that because I'm just going to stitch it with a machine. But it's set up, I used a diamond hole chisel and then round chisels or round hole punches. And that diamond hole chisel is where I mark to line up these holes. It's like this diamond hole lines up with that diamond hole. And when we were going to use for the youth group, I went ahead and took these little twist ties that come with trash bags a lot of times, and went ahead and put those together ahead of time, right there at those holes. You can kind of thread these through sort of like a needle. And then when the kids were stitching it, we already had this together and held in place, and it made it easier for them to not forget to put pieces on there and so on, and to get it all stitched together right. It made stitching a lot easier for them. So that's a little trick that could be useful for anybody that hand stitches. Now, the tools I was talking about using for punching holes, this one is a diamond hole chisel. It does just that little diamond cross section, very similar to what an awl would do. It doesn't remove any material. Whereas this one is what was called a 4-in-1 punch. I don't know if they're still available. I guess they are. But they're convenient because you can have things already spaced by just putting it in the last hole that you punched and punching 3 more at a time. And this does actually remove a little plug of material. It's about a 1/16 inch punch. And that makes it a lot easier, again, for kids to sew. I don't like the look of it on my own work. I prefer to stitch on a machine or to use these diamond hole chisels because they'll make a tighter hole. Whereas this, it looks like the thread's kind of rattling around in it a little bit. But it does make it a lot easier to stitch. So there is an option that a lot of people like. They don't work well in anything more than about this 4 to 5 ounce leather. Anything more than that, you're fighting too much with this and you might damage it. Alright, first off I'm going to use some drum dyed veg tan scrap that I have here from cutting lace. And I'm going to cut my pieces out of that for my interior of the wallet. Basically the 2 small dividers for the pockets and the center part that becomes the main folded money pocket. And we'll go ahead and mark our little spots there where we want to line stuff up. And then these are the dividers for those pockets. Now let's just go ahead and pop in some little marks where I'm going to line these up. I'm actually going to punch the holes through with this diamond hole chisel. And then these pieces are the same way. You just go ahead and punch up near the top of it. So you got a spot to line up. And then we're going to take this undyed 4 to 5 ounce veg tan to cut our other pieces out of. I've already got marked on this scrap piece here. Line-up holes are not as important on those because you can always line them up just based on the corners. But I'll punch them in anyway. On these pieces, I'm going to go ahead and do some edge beveling, and on the opening of the top of it, I'm going to edge bevel both sides. But then the rest of it, I'm just edge beveling all the way around the outside of the wallet, the actual grain side of the leather. There's all my pieces, pretty quick and easy to cut out. Everything's kind of rectangular or close. Pieces are cut out. I'm going to go ahead and do some stamping on these real quick. Just this is what, with the youth group, we'd let the kids do. They could put whatever on there, initials, or just some little patterns that they like. In this case, it was being done for a Father's Day project, so we suggested things that the fathers might like, or his initials. But anyway, this one I'm just making for my sister, so I'm just going to use a honeycomb pattern that I know she has on stuff. Alright, now I'm going to throw some finish on some of these pieces, or color in the case of those pieces, and finish. And I've been really fond lately of this new neat lac that they came out with that's water-based. It adds just a bit of color to something, as if it's aged a bit. But mostly works really well on things if you want to leave it a natural color. And it does, like the old neat lac, work with a resisting type finish. Probably still won't replace Resolene, but hey, good stuff. So with youth groups, a stain and finish that works really well is the all-in-one stain that you can get from Tandy. It's like a thick paste more than a liquid. Well, very viscous liquid. Really. Pepper. No. Right. But anyway, this stuff you can put it on with sheep wool scraps or sponges or all sorts of things. Just a rag or a paper towel even. And basically you just keep rubbing it in there until you get a nice even finish. But you just take that, you smear it all over the place, you wipe off any excess so it sits down in the cracks and crevices. It'll make those darker. And you let it dry a few minutes. You want to try and be a little careful to get the edges. Okay, and then once this has had a few minutes to dry, doesn't take very long at all, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. You can just go back with a paper towel or a cloth, or in this case just a napkin, and polish it. And since it's a wax-based finish, it polishes up really nicely. You can burnish your edges a little bit later, but that's what makes this a really good finish for youth groups, is because you get your coloring and finishing steps done at the same time. It's a pretty short dry time, 4 or 5 minutes, and then you can be done with those steps. and they can start assembling stuff. Oh, our pieces are ready to assemble. Now, again, with the youth group, I punched all the holes. They were hand stitching it. For ones that I'm just doing myself, well, I'm going to go ahead and stitch them on my machine. And to do that, I'll just grab some basting tape. Stick it together a little bit, and it'll be good to go. I can just go down and stitch. But with the youth group, like I said, I went ahead and just used some twist ties here and held it together so that we could go ahead and they can hand stitch it, line up the holes as they go. And this is 1/4 inch basting tape. You could try and just line all this up as you went, but not near as easy. You see I've got those holes that I can line up already. And just kind of stick everything in place. Now, of course, you could also just, as you're working with the sewing machine, try and keep this in line, but that's not much fun. So, I'm going to go downstairs and stitch this into an actual wallet. Alright, to start with, I'm going to just sew across one end, and that's going to be our side that's our open bill pocket. And then we'll fold it together, and I'll sew the other two sides here, and then I'll fold it up, close it all up. Saddle stitch. With youth groups, it's actually easier to do a running stitch and then a running stitch back and fill it in, and kind of like a saddle stitch. And then the same thing on this. Do a running stitch down to the corner once it's folded together, and a running stitch back, and then back stitch a little bit. So it'll come out kind of like a saddle stitch, but not quite as clean. Alright, so that's one side, and like I said, then we fold it together. So we've got our, now we got our wallet shape. Let's line those up a little better. There we go. And we stitch around this way. This probably will come out a lot better if you hand stitch it. Not too bad though. We've got basically a divided pocket, 2 pockets we can call it, and again on the other side identical, and then we've got our main center pocket. Now, with the youth group, I just went ahead and finished these edges up, called it good. For what I'm doing myself, I'm going to go ahead and sand these edges to where they match, and then I'll finish them up. Okay, again, now, when I was working with the youth group, I just went ahead and we just slicked the edges with a edge burnisher right on top of the all-in-one stain. The all-in-one stain has a wax, it slicks down okay. But again, for something that I'm making myself, I'm going to do it a little bit fancier than that. I'm going to go ahead and get some dark brown, or show brown dye. Show brown oil dye, which is extremely dark. And we're just going to go along those edges. And make a nice dark edge to contrast everything. And then use some gum trag and slick it all down. Like I normally do.